This is every manga that had its first chapter come out in the year 2000. And I read every single one of them just for this video, where I found some of the best and worst manga I've ever read. Why? Why are these actual panels? Now, I read a lot, like practically every waking moment of my life for over a month. However, to make it a little more manageable, I set a rule that I would only force myself to read 10 chapters for each series. But if I liked it enough, I would complete the whole thing. And, well, this is how many chapters I ended up reading. So the goal here is for me to give each of these series a rating and let you know what it was like in the year 2000. What were some of the best manga like? What were some of the worst manga like? And what were some of these stupid, absurd, random manga that no one else has ever read, but were actually pretty good? But who knows what I'll end up reading in this video. So I gotta start you all off with a short 14 chapter manga I know you'll enjoy. The world has become nothing but a barren desert. Valuable resources such as water are few and far between, meaning thievery in Sandland has become essential in order to live. But one man has had enough of this, and even seeks out the help of demons to aid him in finding a hidden oasis he knows is out there. So in this manga, you'll follow the journey of the Demon Prince, Rao, and Thief as they travel across all of Sandland to find the desperately needed water supply, and hopefully it goes as smoothly as they planned. Now, I honestly have to say that Sandland was probably one of the most enjoyable reads for me. It's short, sweet, and to the point. You just go on this super quick and fun adventurous journey with the characters, and I was 100% on board with it. And of course, Akira Toriyama's unreal paneling makes it such a breeze to get through. I think if you're a fan of any of the major shonen stories, then Sandland is such a quick refresher before you spend the next 2 years of your life trying to catch up to One Piece. And if it wasn't for finding hidden gems like this, God, you don't want to see what'll end up happening to me. So, this manga is about, well, a little child and her imaginary friends. Sometimes she talks to them and holds little tea parties and stuff. And then, oh God, please tell me this is not what the rest of the manga are gonna be like. Okay, today we all essentially have supercomputers. But imagine instead of having a device that looked like this, they all looked like this. So this manga starts off with Broke Boy over here magically finding one in a dumpster. Then he goes home and does what we all do after getting a new device. We turn that shit on. Now let's all put our hard thinking caps on for a second. How do you think you would turn something on that looked like this? Yeah, think about how you would turn this on. One could probably come up with a lot of ideas on how to turn this on. Come on. Why are you even thinking of that? They definitely don't make you press there to turn it on. What are we doing? I definitely fucked up with this idea. This is the literal first page of the manga. This quite possibly has one of the stupidest premises of all time. There's a magical girls world where the population is like 70% women. This guy goes there. But guess what? Guess what the problem is? He has girl phobia. He is literally allergic to women. Someone, please, just put me out of my misery. At this point, I just hope to find a couple of series that I don't absolutely despise. Because currently I've read 6 manga and, well, they've been pretty miserable. So I just hope to get a crumb of goodness, I beg. Now we all have a particular type of slop that for some reason you like even when you know it's objectively not that good. For some of you, maybe it's shitty isekai, or maybe it's a cookie cutter rom-com. But within the last few months now, I'm starting to realize what my type of slop is. And I hate to admit it, but I'm becoming like every 30-year-old white woman. Because I just can't get enough of mediocre ass crime thrillers. And that is exactly what this manga is. It starts off with this dude attempting to bury his mother that he just murdered. And in the process, he gets caught by her. But instead of freaking out or calling the cops, she helps him. However, in exchange, he has to give her a hand by becoming her parent-killing assistant. As this chick right here is on a quest to kill her father. But like, why? Why would this guy help this hot, psychotic, murder-hungry freak? It's because he fell in love with her. See what I mean? I know this is trashy thriller, but I finished all 24 chapters. Was it good? Not even close. But did it satisfy my hungry slop desires? Maybe. But more accurately, I probably enjoyed this just because I'll take anything better than the shit that I've been reading so far. However, I think it probably deserves like a 6 out of 10. About 2 years ago now, I started this painful addiction of collecting manga. And I still remember the first time I was gazing around at my local bookstore for every last volume of manga they had. And in doing so, I took out this. And I couldn't help but think, this is sick, holy. Which then created this random, inexplicable, deep feeling within myself saying that whenever I do end up reading this manga, I was gonna absolutely adore it. And here I am 190 chapters later, and damn, there's a ton to love in this manga. Here's what it's about.
You are not the one.
This reptilian-headed freak is Kaiman. He lives in Hole, home to outcast humans due to their lack of magic. And the fact that Kaiman can't use any magic and also has an ugly-looking lizard head aren't the only problems he's facing. He also has no idea who the hell he is, or how the hell he got this lizard head, leading his sole purpose in life to figure out the answers to all of these questions, in which he hunts down, bites, and kills any magic user that isn't the one. And, well, the deaths of countless magic users doesn't really go down too well with the head honcho of the magic world, and if Hole is a place where magic users live, then there's also the highly populated and vibrant land of the sorcerers, which this dude N pretty much controls it all. And frustrated at the fact that so many magic users are dying in Hole, he sends assassins after our boy Kaiman. And, well, essentially that is the whole premise of the story. You go on a bit of a goofy, character-driven game of two-way tag, with Kaiman and his partner Nikaido searching for a single magic user, and members of En's family searching for Kaiman. Now for me, going into Dorohedoro completely blind, I was really expecting it to be a super dark fantasy with the likes of Berserk, or maybe even something like Claymore. But that's just not at all what it's like. This manga is much more of a silly adventure type story than I would have ever expected. And to be honest, I think I prefer it that way. I've always come from the perspective of loving character adventures like Hunter x Hunter and One Piece. And seeing this done in a slightly darker, more gory, and truly awesome setting like this was such a unique experience compared to the shonen series I've become accustomed to loving. I think the perfect descriptor for Dorohedoro is that it's a masterpiece of a puzzle that really depends on the reader to put its pieces in the right places. And if it just so happens to form perfectly in your mind while reading, then this manga will probably be one of your all-time faves. But for everyone else, this is still gonna be a solid manga, it just may not knock you out. I'm Batman, 4 out of 10. This is a bit of a thriller sports manga, if that can even really be a category. It starts off by following this guy. After a failed expedition to conquer Mount Everest, he stumbles upon a camera that he thinks belonged to George Mallory, the man who participated in the first attempt to reach the top of the tallest mountain. And what if he and his partner Irvine ended up reaching the summit? And what if it was only on the descent climb that the two got into a fatal accident? Well, this lone camera could possibly shake up the entire mountaineering climbing history. Reading this manga, you go on a bit of a scavenger hunt as you work backwards to figure out why the hell this camera was in this random shop in the first place. And well, if you've read The Climber and enjoyed the mountaineering aspects, then you should definitely check out The Summit of the Gods. It's solid for sure, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Okay, out the gate this manga seems a little strange, but trust me, it's got some things going for it. Just hear me out. We have this extremely high value woman right here. She went to one of the top universities, she has a high paying job, and she frankly is in the top 5% attractiveness wise. But you know, when you're the LeBron James level prospect she is, this can make some fragile low guys feel a little insecure, which is exactly what happened with her ex-boyfriend who just cheated on her. And so on her way home from work one day, she sees this. Now let's take a second and think, what would you do stumbling across someone sleeping in a box? Option A, just keep walking. Option B, help them out somehow, give them a blanket or do something charitable, I don't really know. Or option C, bring them to your house, feed them, bathe them, and well, treat them as if they were your pet dog. Okay. I know the premise is absolutely absurd. No shot anything like this could ever happen, but in all honesty, if you can somehow look past this, it's pretty cute and wholesome. The interaction between the two is kinda endearing and it felt less weird when I was actually reading it, but I recognize how stupid this is. However, I still think it deserves at least a 7.5 out of 10 because it kinda makes my heart feel a little tingly. I know this is supposed to be reading every manga from the year 2000, but for this next one, I just gotta do a little bit of cheating. I know that FLCL's original work is the anime itself, so I'll be watching the FLCL anime. And based on everything I've heard, I would be doing myself a disservice to read the manga. And to be honest, I kinda have no clue what I just watched. I honestly could not tell you a single thing about the plot. What I can say is that the OST was pretty sick. I like the art style and there was some really cool directed animated scenes. I mean, it's only 6 episodes, and if you want to just kill some time, then check FLCL out. Holyland is a story about what happens when you take numbness. This feeling of having absolutely nothing going for you, and instead of making a tragic decision you wouldn't wish upon anyone, you let the nights consume you. You become pumped to the brim with this addictive feeling you can't get enough of. And no, it's not something like heroin, coke, or meth. It's the addictive, adrenaline pumping feeling of beating the utter shit out of someone. And that's exactly what I felt when reading. Holyland follows you, a poor, tormented, and isolated soul, looking for any place willing to accept him. So he takes to wandering the bustling city night streets. Yet the violent nightlife isn't really meant for someone who's a flimsy Kirkland toothpick, and is shakier than my principal's stroke written graduation speech. So you is left as the perfect fresh meat. But in times like these, Yu latches onto a single weapon he's honed, that being a deadly ass straight punch. In shocking flashbang attacks, Yu overwhelms all of his opponents in one fell swoop, creating this massive meat pile of dummies, and quickly being referred to as the Thug Hunter. And with each thug this guy knocks out, it's like increasing the stove 5 degrees when there's a boiling pot of water on top of it. At some point the water is going to boil, and it's only a matter of time until we see what the explosion leads to, in which the author was able to create this single climactic moment that had me breathing heavier than if I did 50 push-ups right now. I felt like I was the one beating the shit out of someone. And I know that sounds like an utterly absurd statement, so let me quickly explain. With every passing fight, you would get more and more notoriety. The fights would continually increase the level of intensity, to the point where you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen next. Each passing fight, the stakes increased, the violence increased, the excitement I had increased, my actual heart's BPM increased, and we reach this point where Yu is face to face with someone pretty special, an endgame level boss at only level 20. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that this single fight had me physically breathing heavier. My heart was beating significantly faster while reading manga. I was laying down reading manga. You know how absolutely insane I sound right now? This is a bit of what Holyland can give you. It is stupidly high-octane, adrenaline-pumping action series, while at the same time you shouldn't underestimate the touching intimacy this manga also has, because it really is able to touch deeply about loneliness and purpose. This manga is one you'll definitely start for the action, but maybe you'll end up leaving with a bit of a hole in your heart. I'm so glad this was on the list. One of the truly great manga I've read. Okay, finally. Finally, it looks like we're getting some really good and solid manga right here. I'm feeling pretty good right now. I really do think we got past the shithole that was the start of this video. This random chick can see/communicate with spirits. These spirits have unresolved issues in a realm. So every chapter she helps troubled departed spirits fix what is keeping them so that they can pass on to the afterlife. Seems pretty straightforward and not problematic at all. Like, there definitely isn't anything weird about this. Like, no shot, come on. Why? Why does she somehow wind up practically nude every chapter? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Make it make sense, please. Come on. This is just Baki with boobs. Lots and lots of boobs. I know some of you are probably foaming at the mouth, but I don't know how many more big, juicy, fat shmaka wakas I can take. Like, you don't even begin to understand just the norm from reading these older manga. And trust me, I get it. But do you want to know the sheer number of absolute garbage, throwaway useless trash that's entire gimmick is solely horny? Like, I've always known it was out there, but it wasn't until I had to force myself to read everything in a year to truly grasp how common this is. Like, boom, here and there, here, there. It's everywhere. It is everywhere. After this, I never want to see unnecessary mega knockers again. Please, just get me to the next manga, man. Hey man, gets the job done if you know what I mean, man. Yes, sir. Smugglers in this manga are guys who have to clean up the bodies after gang assassinations. And this guy right here somehow got tangled up in all of it. It makes him wonder, how did his life end up going down this treacherous path? This is a super short 4-chapter manga that was a pretty interesting read. Nothing outstanding, but solid enough. We're like 5 bajillion years into the future, and Dr. Einstein over here has somehow figured out how to reconstruct someone's brain. But this isn't just any Joe Schmo's brain you find, it happens to be from the strongest warrior ever. And by the time they manage to revive her, stuff happens and everyone in this Sky City is going berserker mode. Because it turns out no one actually has any brains and they're all just microchips. And I don't really know. I'm not really a fan of these dystopian futuristic manga. And I get it, they can be pretty cool and have really unique concepts, but for some reason my small dull brain is just like, what the fuck is going on? But if you're into this kind of stuff, then go for it. Seems like others enjoy this one, but for me, it's a no. Battle Royale. Guess what? It's a Battle Royale, yeah! Okay, but seriously, this one is pretty fucking sick. Here's what happens. In this future, junior high students are chosen at random to compete in the Battle Royale. But here are the rules. They are taken to a randomly disclosed island, and only one student can be standing after 3 dates. If not, they all get killed. And to start off, they're all handed a bag with the essentials and one completely random weapon. They're then let out one by one into the death zone that awaits them, and that's about it. Usually for each of these manga, I wrote a good amount of notes of thoughts I had or plot summaries just so I can remember what happened. But for this one, I pretty much wrote nothing. I was mindlessly engaged the whole entire time. This manga is pretty much the Hunger Games if you added insane psychotic zombie horror shit into it. It's just so much fun. Although I haven't finished this manga right now, I do see myself finishing this in the future. It seems really promising and it make my monkey brain clap hands. After some people die, they get transported to this room, where the black ball right here gives them a special mission, suits, and weapons, as they're tasked to kill various aliens. And if they somehow succeed, the few survivors receive points to hopefully be able to live again. And let's just say, shit gets crazy. Gantz has always been one of those series that as someone who's consumed manga, you just kinda know about it. It's one you've probably heard so many things about, but at the same time know absolutely nothing. And that's pretty much how I felt before reading. And what the fuck? Gantz is beyond absurd. I think the only way I can really describe it is by giving you a quick comparison. Gantz is kinda like Dandadan if you injected it with 15 pounds of LSD, only ate shrooms, and gave it a permanent dose of Viagra. And as a final note, about 6 months ago, I started reading Blam for the first time. I got decently far, like 20 or so chapters in, and then just stopped. And it was pretty much for no particular reason. I got distracted and went elsewhere with my time. Until I self-imposed this challenge onto myself and had to read Noise, a super short 8-chapter prequel to the story of Blam. Although, admittedly, I kinda wish I had finished reading Blam, because after reading, I most definitely missed out on a lot of context. And because of that, this is more of a recommendation to go read Blam instead of Noise. And I think the best way to convince you is to just take a look at this. The author Nihei is simply one of the best at creating unreal settings, as he really relies on visual storytelling with little to no dialogue to carry the narrative. So if you're into that kind of stuff and are liking the artwork, you should check it out. Now, as a 20-year-old 6'2", 185 athletic specimen of a man, it may come to a big shock to you that I don't think I necessarily fit the shoujo demographic. So it really does come to my own surprise that I, read all of and maybe enjoyed just a little of something called Flower of Eden. Midori and Tokyo have been separated from one another after a tragic accident leading to the death of their parents. The two siblings were adopted into completely different worlds, and their lives for the past 7 years couldn't have been more different. Life for Midori has been difficult, one troubled with countless traumatizing home and school experiences. While on the contrary, Tokyo's life couldn't have been more blessed. And finally coming to the age where he could support his nearly forgotten sister, he travels from the US to Japan in order to finally be reunited with his one and only true family member, finally granting a place for Midori to live kinda comfortably. So now, will she finally be able to accept others? Now, I want to say this is an awesome, cute romance story that you can all enjoy. One filled with dramatic twists that'll keep you turning the next page. But, well, it kind of took a right turn down a path towards a real sweet home. Why? Why are these actual panels? But if you want a more problematic romance, there was also this. Finally, as a quick end note, this series ended up getting cancelled because the author admitted to have copied numerous panels from Slam Dunk and Real. Although, personally I never noticed when I was reading, I still have to mention that plagiarism, bad. Really bad. Don't do it. But I felt like I had to talk about this series as it was kind of pivotal in my experience when reading all of these manga. I hope you all can understand. Look! Look! There is an animation in the chapter itself! What? That's so sick. 3 out of 10 though. Well, there was a surprising amount of boys love manga. Now for this next one, I want to keep it brief because I gotta admit, I'm not the right person to recommend queer stories as I'm a straight dude. But still, in my opinion, Love My Life was a fascinating melancholic read. And besides that, I don't really know how much better I can explain it as someone who can't really relate. This manga focuses on the relationship between these two characters right here, and just kind of navigating and figuring out one's feelings. So I think if you possibly struggle with sexual identity, or feel a sense of uneasiness in your life about your own personal understanding, then I think you should check this manga out. Cause if a straight man like me can enjoy an intimate queer story like this, then clearly it means good things. For the past 300 years, this guy has been stuck in hell. Through strenuous torture, he's managed to last far longer than anyone should have. So in an effort to get this guy out of hell, he's given a task. He has 108 days to catch the sins of 108 criminals. And to do so, he's given the Togari, an animalistic weapon that feasts on the violence of the user and it allows one to see the manifestation of people's sins. And well, honestly, it's just some decent action fun. You see this freak attack people. Attack people cool. Capiche? Capiche. So this guy's an amazing pro surgeon doctor and then randomly gets transported back to 1862 Edo, Japan. And well, with 2000's medical knowledge, he has to find creative ways to solve health problems from 138 years ago. And honestly, it was a pretty interesting read. I enjoyed a lot of it. I just hate needles and people getting cut. Otherwise, I might have finished this. If you are possibly thinking about going into med school and you want to have a manga to like kind of feel better about yourself because you're not reading something like dog shit and it's still medical related, then maybe you can read this. This spirit chick can speak to people who have just died or are about to die. So she uses this inexplicable magic communication power she has to save the nearly poor dead souls. And well, I just don't get it. I don't get the appeal of spirit type stories, and overall this was pretty boring. I would have rather watched ants crawl on the ground. Ass. Trash. Garbage. Lame. Child. Mediocre. Snooze fest of a romance story. If you were like 10 years old and wanted to read an old, outdated romance story, then yeah, you found the right one. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, I only have to read 10 chapters per series, and like, that isn't really all that many. But when you have to do that for 100 series, then I start to want to lose my mind a little bit. But you know how I can tell when a manga is real bad is when there are only 7 chapters, and after one, I was dreading spending the next hour to only read 6 chapters for a series. I'm not even gonna tell you what it's about. That's how painful it was to get through. Like, look at what I had to read. What even is this? I can barely even tell what's happening. I'm telling you, no one should ever do this. Oh my god. I am 20 years old. All things considered, I am young as hell. But you know what I shouldn't be doing? I should not be reading manga that are clearly for people below the age of 12. Like, sure, maybe if I was 7 and I read/watched this anime, maybe, just maybe I would have enjoyed it. But as a 20-year-old, what am I doing? I just don't get it. I know some people enjoy cute girls doing cute things, and if you like that, then good for you, but I just couldn't. For me, reading this after every torturous manga I've subjected myself to, it just added a 10x multiplier of pain and suffering. Like, I do not care to see these 3 sisters just run a library. I can't take it. I can't do it anymore! Do you know how many manga I've read? That's right, nearly 100 manga. And do you know how many of those I actually enjoyed? Probably like 15 at most. So that's at least 850 chapters I had to subject myself to in this video. I'm losing my mind! Do you know how painful it is to read chapter after chapter of boring ass slice of life stories over and over again with nothing unique about them? And maybe some of you are thinking, there's no way you actually read all of them. Oh yeah? Do you think I wrote around 40 pages of notes just cause? Do you think all of this was just cause? Just to deceive the masses? No, this is real. Look at all of these shitty manga that are not worth mentioning to waste your time, my time, all of our time. It's just so many copious hours of my life vanishing into the eternal abyss. The worst part of all is not that they are bad, because at least if they were bad enough, I can make content out of it or say something interesting. But look at how many are so unforgettably boring they aren't even worth mentioning. I swear to God, I never want to force myself to read some mediocre, boring, chibi-ass looking manga ever again. Like, I swear, if I get any more terrible manga, I don't know. I do not know. This is Taiyo Matsumoto, the author of number 5 and also an important manga I'll talk about in a second, GoGo Monster. And well, here's every manga he's ever made. I had no idea who Taiyo Matsumoto was before this video, but he's quickly becoming one of my favorite manga authors ever. I have so much I want to say about number 5 and also Matsumoto as a whole, but no matter what I write, it just isn't coming out how I want without it being extremely long. And while every story I've ever consumed by Matsumoto has had me slumped in my chair looking like this. And while number 5 takes place in a world where one of the 12 peacekeeping council members has gone rogue, and it's up to the other members to track him down. And that's it. Seems super surface level, but for some reason, whatever this author writes feels so much deeper. Maybe one day I'll create a special vid for this phenomenal author. For now, here's what I've currently read, but I couldn't recommend to you more than to just read any of Matsumoto's works, and I hope you'll thank me later. Okay, it would be kinda absurd to literally spend multiple minutes talking about every single manga I read, because we would probably be here for like 2 hours where the majority are just useless garbage that no one really cares about. So before getting to the cream of the crop that I've saved for last, let me quickly run through series that I have not fit into any segment so far and were solid enough to not make me want to hate myself. First up we have this. A pretty cool action series. However, if I didn't read it so early on, I probably would have forgotten about it right away. Next, a realistic and wholesome romance story about some broke college students. I relate. Next, not great, not bad, a pretty okay romance. Next, it's actually pretty good, but medical stuff gross, man. Next, I liked it before the mecha stuff happened. Next, I always thought this was cool because it had Miyamoto Musashi in it. Cute shoujo. Next, we got 2 high school comedy type stories. Not bad, not good, but not bad, like the rest of these. Historical time travel, pretty cool, man, pretty cool. Next, a pretty goofy, stupid ass romance. That's it for just the standard I wouldn't hate myself if I had to read more series. SS revolves around a man referred to as Big Buddha. He currently works at an old car shop. They get few customers and the pay there is practically worthless. With his struggling family and poor financial situation, everything seems to be out of his control. My man Big Buddha practically has no autonomy in his life whatsoever. He's kinda just existing. The only ounce of escape the former rally driver gets is when he's behind the wheel. SS has some really beautiful driving panels, and overall the artwork is just incredibly solid. So after reading so much garbage, this was really nice. However, I was only able to find 6 chapters translated in English, but from the little that I did read, it was quite enjoyable. I appreciated the story of feeling a bit helpless in one's current living situation, so SS was a story that made me want more. I hope it'll continue to get translations in the future. To give you a quick comparison of what this manga is like, maybe you've read The Blood on the Tracks. Now, imagine the complete opposite. So you have this mother who recently had her first child. She cares deeply about raising this child right, but it's a little different from what she's heard. She thought she could be physically affectionate, but her boy doesn't like to be held. She couldn't wait for him to call her mommy, but he doesn't talk even by the time he turns 5. And she's excited for him to look at her with caring, needy eyes, but he never even looks in her direction. Feeling completely isolated and all alone, she frankly doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know why her child is so different from the rest. But eventually she takes him to the doctor, where this naive mother can't fathom that her child has autism. Now remember, we aren't in the 2020s anymore. This was written over 20 years ago, so the awareness and necessary acceptance of autism isn't really out there. It's practically non-existent, meaning the systems in place that should help these parents don't exist. But even still, throughout this manga, you watch through this mother's eyes as she raises this boy up through junior high, and there are lots and lots of tribulations. But overall, to me, it was done in such a beautiful, heartwarming way that put a lot of things into perspective. It made me really question and rethink how I look at others. It invokes so many empathetic and caring feelings within myself. Like, I just want to give everyone a hug, man. With the Light is simply beautiful. And well, did I think I would ever like this manga in a million years based on the mediocre ass summary I just gave? Absolutely not. I'm just glad I'm able to shed some light on a wonderful series like this to you all out there. Even if the summary isn't exactly what you're looking for, I still think you should give this one a chance. To be honest, Nana has never really been a manga that I've been dying to read. I've always had it on my list to one day check out, but there was never really any urgency or desire for me to pick it up at any time. And I think a big reason for that is how easily I can be persuaded. And what I mean is, when I want to pick up a manga, it's usually after hearing multiple good things about it that I have no choice but to want to read it. However, with Nana, it feels like silence, which is such a shame. Because when you hear people talk about some of their favorite or best manga of all time, you typically see some of these names. And well, yes, these stories are definitely some of the best ever. There's just one downside. That being, these stories, to me, relatively feel pretty similar in tone/genre. But I think what is special about Nana is that it's on the other end of the spectrum, yet at the same time is able to master what it does so well, and even be able to maybe compete with them. So it's about this normal, love-stricken girl. Her living situation is as painfully standard as you could think of, with her major defining characteristic being her bubbly, flirtatious personality, where she spends her time chasing one crush to the next. While on the other hand, we have this chick, a feisty, prideful music lover who joined a band in high school and has seen pretty moderate success. And wanting to take that to the next level, she desires to travel to Tokyo. And well, these two couldn't be more different, with the only commonality among them being their names, Nana. And with a multitude of coincidental circumstances, they find each other on the same train to Tokyo, and in the following day, even wanting to live in the same apartment. And well, for me on the surface, I'm not interested in Nana because of the premise or the musical aspects, because I have no musically talented bone in my body. But what differentiates something like Nana from other series is the superb character drama. Frequently in Nana, there are interweaving relationships that can change on a dime. One day you'll be surrounded by one group of people, and then the next it can feel like there's no one around. And I think the execution of this in Nana was something that really resonated with me. It really made me think how fucking weird life is. Like, take a second and think about your life for a second. And think about how crazy it is that one day you could just happen to go outside and meet that right person at the right time. And this can change everything. It can change what you do, what you like, what you want to be. Literally everything about you can change from what seems like chance. That's fucking insane. And what Nana really thrives at is capturing this essence of spontaneous life and happenstance relationships that build into something. Like, who knew that these two right here, who seemingly have nothing in common, could build such a strong connection? who knew that sitting next to that right person on a train would lead to living together in the same apartment, which led to becoming friends with her band, and even led to meeting that artist she idolized so much. Nana to me really accentuated the idea of how fast one's living situation can change, and you kind of just have to accept it. Life is something that doesn't stop. You will never get a chance to hit pause and think over any decision. And before you know it, you'll be 60 years old wondering what the fuck happened. I don't know. I thought it was good. And not many people talk about it on YouTube, man. I think it's one of the best at what it does, so I recommend it if you need some drama in your life. I don't really know what I'm supposed to say for this one. I'm pretty sure I've said before in my videos that I'm not a deep introspective person. I never think too deeply about, well, anything really. I just exist in whatever is happening at this current time. But when I read GoGo Monster, I felt like wanting to stop everything and just think, which is really rare for me. So when something actually makes me want to stop, it's kind of remarkable. Now, GoGo Monster is about a boy, Yuki, who is completely isolated. The only ones by his side are the creatures he claims he's able to see. Yet, in that parallel world inside of his mind, tragedies are happening. The special beings are starting to fade away. And that's really it. I don't think I can really say much more than that, because nothing else really happened. So I find it a little strange that its impact on me was so much greater. When I first started reading, honestly, I was extremely weirded out and just flat out confused. I had no idea what the hell this was. And to go along with that, I was gonna make a stupid joke about how this was like the biography of Fujimoto because it was just extremely weird. But as I continued, I just started to feel sad, like really sad. The story just captured this uncomfortable, uncanny realness that kind of made my skin crawl. I felt, well, I guess hypnotized just reading something so mundane, something that captured the isolation of real life so profoundly well. And I just couldn't help but feel bad. Feel terrible for children who are unable to fit in. Like if you were to go outside to the mall or something and then carefully observe how people act, that's kind of how I felt when reading this manga. I don't know, I think what's amazing about doing some stupid challenge like this is that I can read some of the oddest stories that few have ever heard of. And in all of the horrendous time wasting I go through, there can be a short story capable of making me feel things that I've never felt before. And I love that. It's what makes reading manga and making these videos so special to me. To learn more about myself while also being able to create stuff that I think is pretty cool. Now, will I ever do something like this ever again? Hell no. Hell no. This is stupid, so insanely stupid. It's a massive waste of time that I'll never get back. But honestly, I'm glad I did it. A lot of the manga sucked, but there were a handful I actually really enjoyed. So I hope you enjoyed my suffering and found at least something that piqued your interest. And if you did, how about just share the video with a friend? That would be sick. Thank you. Well, that's it. Bye. See you later. I hope you come back again. See you next time. Peace.